This is the VOA Special English Health Report. In the past year, Burma has opened its political system and reached ceasefire agreements with some ethnic militias. The government has also eased media restrictions, but many aid groups say their jobs have not gotten any easier. Health workers are warning about the spread of a form of drug-resistant malaria. The malaria is resistant to treatment with artemisinin. It was first seen several years ago in Cambodia. Frank Smithius started a group called Medical Action Myanmar. He says even with the recent political openings, aid organizations still find it difficult to gain access to areas most in need of aid. This is true, he says, especially in areas torn by many years of conflict along Burma's eastern border. He says there are now very good opportunities because of the ceasefire agreements with the Karen and the Mon. Larger areas should now be open for access to a joint activity to stop this artemisinin resistance spread. However, that has not happened yet, and we definitely need to have more openness and more activity and more international donor money, he says. In the past, many non-governmental organizations simply worked without official approval. Lower-level government officials largely ignored organizations that did not follow the rules. Until 2009, just 3 international non-governmental aid organizations had the required approvals to operate inside Burma. Yet more than 100 were operating there. Many were able to get a memorandum of understanding that allowed them to work without an official registration. But then came the recent political changes. Heads of aid organizations say lower-level officials are now unclear about their powers and responsibilities. In many cases, they are enforcing the procedures more. Save the Children is an aid organization whose work is mostly related to mother and child health in Burma. Kellen Stevenson with Save the Children says, in general, ministries and government workers have become much more cooperative. He agrees with those who say the barriers that humanitarian workers now face are largely bureaucratic. He says it shouldn't be a political discussion. There remains a bit of command and control from government, and it's not going to open up overnight. He says the discussion about getting access to new areas is underway. In his words, "You have to remember, these changes have been extraordinarily dramatic in such a short time, a year." Kellen Stevenson says things are changing so quickly. Still, aid groups warn that some issues, such as the drug-resistant malaria, may only get worse unless the government also takes action quickly. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. For more health news and other information for people learning English, go to voaspecialenglish.com.
This is the VOA Special English Health Report. Sleeping sickness is a deadly disease that infects about 60,000 people in Africa each year. Now, scientists in Scotland say they may have found a new treatment. Their findings are in the journal Science. Sleeping sickness is spread by the bite of the tsetse fly. The insect can carry a parasite that infects the central nervous system. First, the infection causes fever, headache, itchy skin, and weakness. Then, when the parasite enters the brain, it causes more serious problems. People suffer seizures and thinking problems, and they sleep for extended periods. If the disease is not treated, it almost always kills the victim. Paul Wyatt works at the Drug Discovery for Tropical Diseases program at the University of Dundee. Mr. Wyatt led the study. He says the research identified a weakness in the parasite. The weakness is an enzyme called N-myristoyltransferase, or NMT. The parasite needs NMT to survive. The researchers developed a mixture of chemicals that interfered with the performance of the enzyme. They tried it in test tubes containing the parasites. As a result, the parasites stopped reproducing. The scientists also tested the treatment on laboratory mice with sleeping sickness. They gave them the chemical compound by mouth. The scientists said the infection disappeared. Now, Paul Wyatt says a drug based on the research could be ready for testing in humans within 18 months. Currently, medicine for sleeping sickness requires a series of injections that are costly and painful. Hospital stays are also needed, and the side effects of the treatment can be serious, sometimes even causing death. Francois Chapuis is a specialist in neglected tropical diseases with the international group Doctors Without Borders. He says a less costly, easy-to-use medicine for sleeping sickness is badly needed. He says a simpler treatment, taken by mouth, would be the best. And that's the VOA Special English Health Report. Transcripts and MP3s of our reports are on our website, voaspecialenglish.com. You can also comment on our programs. You can also find us on Twitter and YouTube. And you can join the community at the new VOA Learning English fan page on Facebook. We're at VOA Learning English Special English.
I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Health Report. Old age may not sound exciting, but recent findings offer good news for older people and for people worried about getting older. Researchers found that people become happier and experience less worry after they reach the age of 50. In fact, they say by the age of 85, people are happier with their life than they were when they were 18 years old. The findings came from a survey of more than 340,000 adults in the United States. The Gallup organization questioned them by telephone in 2008. At that time, the people were between the ages of 18 and 85. The researchers asked questions about emotions like happiness, sadness, and worry. They also asked about mental or emotional stress. Arthur Stone in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Science at Stony Brook University in New York led the study. His team found that levels of stress were highest among adults between the ages of 22 and 25. The findings showed that stress levels dropped sharply after people reached their 50s. Happiness was highest among the youngest adults and those in their early 70s. The people least likely to report feeling negative emotions were those in their 70s and 80s. The study also showed that men and women have similar emotional patterns as they grow older. However, women at all ages reported more sadness, stress, and worry than men. The findings appeared in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Researchers say they do not know why happiness increases as people get older. One theory is that as people grow older, they grow more thankful for what they have and have better control of their emotions. They also spend less time thinking about bad experiences. Professor Stone says the emotional patterns could be linked to changes in how people see the world, or maybe even changes in brain chemistry. The researchers also considered possible influences like having young children, being unemployed, or being single. But they found that influences like these did not affect the levels of happiness and well-being related to age. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can read more reports about health on our website, voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at VOA Learning English. This is the VOA Special English Health Report. Japanese doctors have begun examining 360,000 children in Fukushima Prefecture. The goal is to learn the extent to which radiation may increase their risk of thyroid cancer. Children who lived closest to the Fukushima 1 nuclear power station were among the first to be tested. The earthquake and tsunami that struck northeastern Japan in March left 20,000 people dead or missing. So far, no one has died from radiation exposure, but tens of thousands remain displaced from a 20-kilometer area around the disabled power plant. Officials say the thyroid tests will be done every 2 years until the children reach the age of 20. After that, tests will be done every 5 years. Most cancers of the thyroid gland can be treated if found early. Some people in Tokyo and other cities are measuring radiation levels themselves. They worry about a possible risk from Fukushima. Recently, a private laboratory confirmed the presence of increased levels of radioactive cesium in some dirt at Tokyo's Edogawa ballpark. The area is nearly 250 kilometers from the reactors. 2 mothers at the ballpark expressed surprise when told about the radioactive hotspot. The women said they had heard many general reports about radiation since the disaster in March. They felt they could not be overly concerned about those reports, or they would not be able to go on with their daily lives. Private citizens found abnormal levels of radiation in the air on the path to a Tokyo school. However, government officials said the cause was under the floor of a nearby house, old bottles containing radium powder. Radium was used in the past to make watch and clock faces glow in the dark. The International Atomic Energy Agency said in October that Japan must avoid becoming too conservative in its cleanup efforts. Japanese officials have ordered an increase in radiation testing, but they say hotspots outside Fukushima are not a cause for worry. They say no one spends enough time at the sites to get enough radiation to cause harm. They also say the small dosimeters that some private citizens use to measure radiation can give a wrong reading. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. Our programs are a way for people to read, listen, and learn American English and much more. You can download transcripts and MP3s of our stories at voaspecialenglish.com. I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Health Report. Vaccines and chest compressions are both ways to save lives. Now, separate new reports say each could save more lives if they were used more. One report is from the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies and the Gavi Alliance. Gavi is the global alliance for vaccines and immunization. This alliance of public and private groups finances vaccines in poor countries. Spokesman Jeffrey Rowland says Gavi has done a lot since it began 10 years ago. He says they have prevented 5.4 million premature deaths. And he says they hope to prevent 4.2 million premature deaths by keeping immunization rates high for several diseases, including pneumonia and rotavirus diarrhea. Gavi says these two diseases cause more than 1/3 of all deaths in children under age 5. It says new vaccines against the pneumococcal bacteria and rotavirus could save more than 1 million children each year. But the group warns that a shortage of $4 billion threatens these and other immunization programs. In other health news, a new study compares ways of saving patients with cardiac arrest. Sudden cardiac arrest is when the heart develops an abnormal rhythm and stops beating. An analysis of 4 studies found no difference in short-term survival when rescuers followed current guidelines. These call for defibrillation as soon as possible. A defibrillator is the device used to shock the heart back to normal rhythm. But there was a small increase in long-term survival among those who received chest compressions before defibrillation. This was true especially if there were delays in the arrival of emergency medical services. Dr. Pascal Meyer of the University of Michigan Health System led an international study of 1,500 patients. He said they wanted to test whether it would be better to start with chest compressions to get some blood circulation to the brain and heart before they applied the electrical shock. Dr. Meyer says people should start to give compressions immediately if emergency help has not arrived. He says good quality compressions are done in the middle of the chest, about 2 fingers above the lower end of the chest bone. You put both hands on the chest, straighten your arms, and do strong compressions. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.